Hey, welcome to the Log Time Podcast. Me and the rest of the Backloggers have assembled to talk about Samurai Flamenco. This show about a fashion model turned vigilante hero isn't quite the superhero stuff everyone's talking about these days, but it's a heck of a doozy, so stick around.
So, am I banned from, choosing shows yet?
Was this one your choice?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes, it
was another
Oh.
one.
I'll
I'm
say
just
this.
wondering how many times it's going to take for me to get, my rights revoked.
I didn't hate this show. I just didn't think it was amazing.
The thing about this is, I have tried, before this,
Mm-hmm.
I think 3 separate occasions to watch this show. And each time I would get through episode 5 or 6 and be like, yeah, cool, this is really cool so far. I'm really interested in this. And then something would distract me away from it and I never really get back around to it.
Yeah.
And I'm a little disappointed that those previous times I hadn't just gone through with it. Because hitting episode 7 and getting into the part of Samurai Flamenco where you kind of realize, oh, this is Samurai Flamenco. This is what the show is. It is a hell of a whiplash twist.
Yeah, I actually hated it.
I gave it a 9.5, so...
Oh, that's interesting.
This is going to be really
This
bad.
is so weird that
Wait,
I'm the
wait,
negative
wait,
Nancy this podcast.
Hold on. You gave the whole show a 9?
Yeah. This is like a god tier show.
Matt?
There's something weird going on.
Well, no. My question is not that, I'm not here to say it's a bad show. I think it's fun. It has its issues. But, wow, this is a wild shift from what I would feel you would normally give a show this high of a rating. Kyle, I'm scared. What is happening?
I don't know. I'm interested to see why Matt enjoyed it.
What's happening? Oh, okay. Yeah, what happened, Matt?
What happened?
What really...
I'm more confused on why you guys didn't like it.
Okay, so I guess we'll start with that. So from a conceptual standpoint, I adore Samurai Flamenco. I love the fact that it is essentially a deconstruction of a Super Sentai genre and how it is like a consistent satire of all the things that go into it, but also kind of in a lot of ways a critical analysis of it. I love the kind of discussion between, for instance, Flamenco and King Torture, where he is kind of talking about this kind of master plan he has of saying, we feel just as strongly about evil as you do about justice. We both watched these same shows as a kid, but kind of got something different out of it. And the kind of discussions of the heroes are the ones that are always alone, but if we band together in evil, we are united. And it's so bizarre and campy, but it's really interesting to see that kind of villain motivation. So I think this show does a lot of really neat stuff. I think it's very funny at times. I think the wild cast of characters leads into something that is just a fantastic sum of its parts. Of course, Mr. Justice from America is actually a secret alien plant villain.
Fantastic. He is a foreigner, otherwise known as an alien.
Yeah. It's just, there's a lot of fun stuff in this show. But I have some issues. Sometimes this show is ugly as sin. It's hard to watch sometimes, just because it feels like they scraped together its budget with whatever was in the executive producer's pockets at the time.
You're just constantly hanging him upside down or wringing him out for his lunch money.
It looks kind of bad at times, but
I don't know, that
I don't
part
know.
didn't necessarily
it
bother
didn't
me
really
too much.
like. I don't think that's the part that I would like too harshly criticize.
No. Like it's a
but-
minor thing. The look for it doesn't really do that much. Like I'm personally fine with it.
Yeah.
That was more just kind of like I was on a roll and I had to find something else to kick it with. Which again, not to say I didn't like this show. I loved it. But yeah, what are some of the things that you would specifically say that you weren't terribly jazzed about, Kyle?
Man, I was gonna go on a tirade. It's so weird that
I mean, go for it,
I'm
dude.
the person that doesn't like. I'm usually like, no, there's some good shit about that show, and you guys are like, it's shit. Moving on. I liked this show up until episode 6.
Oh, okay. So before you continue, I want to point out that when this show first aired, because this show first aired same season as Golden Time and Kill la Kill. So we're talking like 2013, 2012 area. So when I saw the discussion about Samurai Flamenco for the first time, there was actually 80% of the people dropped it at episode 6.
Well, episode 6, I guess, is not necessarily the issue for me. It was episode 7 whenever it starts actually showing its true
when
colors.
The thing happens. But
right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When Guillotine Gorilla.
Yeah, but that's when a lot of people bailed out. Like,
honestly, I can understand where they're coming from, because to me it was such a clever deconstruction, those first 6 episodes, because it was taking this idea of like this guy who desperately wants to be something more and wants to be that big, like, bombacious superhero, and he's having to come to the realities of his situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved that. And it was doing such a clever job of like taking all these interesting tropes and seeing like, oh, but in reality this is how it would work. And I thought that was fantastic, even if it was like overly optimistic about it rather than negative. But I think that's fine, because in that its own way it's deconstructing, but it's still celebrating what it's deconstructing. What I didn't like is when it started to get into episode 7 onwards, it stopped deconstructing completely. It would do the thing that I really dislike about a lot of other anime that I've seen, in which it's like, we know about these tropes and we're going to point them out to you, but we're also going to just do them anyway. Instead of like subverting it or doing something interesting with it, we're going to say, hey, isn't this interesting? And then just do it. And I don't think that was bad, because the way that it wrote the story was good, and I still had fun watching this. Like, I still think this is, like, for me, like a 6 or 7. It was still a fun show. It was just, it started out so fucking strong on that whole, like, revisionist deconstruction thing, and then dropped the ball after 6 episodes. And that just annoyed me, because I was like, you were doing something amazing, and then you decided to just throw all that out the window because you wanted to do something bombastic. And I was like, that's fine. The bombastic was fun, but it's literally just everything I've already seen in other shows.
Well, but I think that's in some way partially the point of it, because it is, in a lot of ways, from what I've read, also as much a deconstruction as it is also supposed to be a celebration of Super Sentai and that kind of genre.
But you can do that and do it well, because, like, for instance, have you seen Kingsman?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Kingsman is such a wonderful deconstruction of that type of spy film, because it does a lot of the beats that you would expect out of a spy film, but it has this incredibly dark edge and that subverts a lot of the standard tropes of a spy film. But in the same way, you come out of it going, those guys really like spy films. It's never like, haha, aren't they stupid or something like that. It's like, oh no, they love spy films and they wanted to make their own love letter, but also address some of the issues of the genre. This did not do that. It just, like, for 6 episodes it did, and then after that it was like, we're just going to do what everybody else does. And that rubbed me the wrong way.
I don't really fully agree with that.
Yeah, I'm going to tag you into this one, Matt. I'll let you take over for a sec, and I'll hop in.
Yeah, because you really liked it, so I want to hear what you have to say.
I mean, this is coming from someone that didn't have a whole lot of experience with those genres already.
The Super Sentai stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I watched Power Rangers as a kid, so I kind of get it, right? Like,
Yeah.
You know, I get the whole concept. I don't know. I just kind of felt like, and I'm not going to disagree with you in the fact that the first 6 episodes are pretty good. Like, they're absolutely a strong point of the show. Absolutely. But I feel like as we progress, as we progress into the show, it may not be like that strong, like, revisionist deconstruction thing that you're talking about, but I feel like, and maybe it's more along the lines of what Zack said about a celebration in that regard, but I don't think that's quite right either. It's like it's like they're celebrating it, but I almost feel like they're parodying it in some way too. Like, I don't want to say it's full parody because it's not funny, like, enough to be a parody, but it's like this really weird, like, conglomerate of, like, all of these things, like of parody, like of a celebration, like of,
yeah, it's a strong sense of like satire.
It's almost like a satire, yeah. Like, it feels I don't know. When I watched the show, and both times I've watched the show, I felt that the later arcs are probably more satirical because I mean, look at the progression here. We started out with a realistic show that was grounded, and then we went up to a level, which is monsters and King Torture and all that. And then we got to From Beyond, which was like something from a frickin' like a Power Rangers-esque show where they become the Flamengers. Like, that name is just stupid. Like, I mean, I don't know how the heck you could take that seriously from that point, but then it got even crazier. Like, I don't know, like, the progression, the way the plot progressed into, like, alien flamenco, and, like, the way everything was framed, I don't know, it just didn't seem like it was definitely making fun of these things more than it was trying to, like, do them properly. But yet, it still did them in a way that you could be like, yeah, I remember those shows, you know? Like, it was still a celebration while also being slightly satirical.
Yeah, I feel as though, like, there is a lot of heart that is still put into this because, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
for one sense, like, there's a earlier episode kind of still in the King Torture arc where he's kind of talking about, like, oh yeah, all of my previous villains and my comrades, like, they'd explode when you defeated them. And that's fine. We kind of just had to get so many battles out there before we could actually get me as the big bad out there because we had a quota to meet. A predetermined quota, and he said that with such a degree of seriousness that was absolutely, like, inspiring to watch because I was losing my shit just at, like, oh my god, you all kind of just put this whole thing there. It's like, yeah, we have to have a bunch of, like, filler episodes and such before you actually get to a substantial fight in these kinds of things.
Yeah, and I mean, they even comment on it with the crowds literally just walking by as they're fighting because it's so just typical now and no one gives a shit.
Which is also a big point of that arc.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But also, like, when you get into the Flamenger stuff, think about, like, you can't defeat us, we're the 4 kings, and then there's like, but we're a part of the 64 blah blah blahs, and we're part of the 256 blah blah blahs. And it was like, come on, like, you couldn't look at that and been like, I feel like they were taking the Super Sentai, like, tonkatsu genre, and they were, like, ramping it up to, like, 1 million. Like, it was clearly, like, I don't know, like, it just seemed, like, so satirical to me on the first.
Oh, I mean,
on both
it
times
definitely
I watched
is.
it.
Yeah.
Like,
and like,
because
sorry, you go ahead.
Like, so, because I mean, so for instance, when we get to the Prime Minister arc and beyond, when we get to, like, Flamenco in space, where we find out that every head of every country has been replaced by an alien, it is one wild thing. But also, you know, when they get into space and, you know, Alien Flamenco's talking about, we're here to assimilate everything through evolution, and you can do it with this rock. And Samurai Flamenco is just like, okay, fuck you, I'm not going to use this rock, but hey, to defeat you, I'm going to use this rock. And there's this whole dialogue between the aliens. He's like, but you're still using it.
Right.
Then,
he's like,
right?
but
like,
you did it anyway.
Using this.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, but it's different. I'm going to use this to defeat you. He's like, but you're still using it. And so there is this consistent sense that, yeah, while there is still, like, a lot of poking fun at these kinds of things and the show and the genre in general, there's this sense that it is not doing it out of anything that is perhaps malicious or being like, look how stupid this shit is. It's more like, look at this absolute dimwit and look at how these things could be. Like, this is the kind of features and flaws of these sorts of series amplified on an incredible magnitude, because we just went full Gurren Lagann and we're fighting on top of basically a galaxy.
Yeah, that's what I kind of felt like. Like, I felt like it exemplified its flaws so spectacularly that, and yes, that does still make them flaws inherently. I won't disagree that. But I think by escalating those flaws to that sort of level, it creates this great, like, maybe as Zack said earlier, like a critical analysis, or like this, like, just a satirical, like, air about the scenes and stuff that just really, I don't know, it was really enjoyable, but also, like, was really, well, it was really stupid, but in a good way, like a good fun way. And I don't know, I just felt like I really, like, as every scene, even though it was ridiculous, there would always be another scene, like, even right afterwards, that I'd be like, I'd have to really think about, like, why, why are superheroes, like, I know in the first arc they talked a lot about the sense of justice, but then there was a lot about, like, what makes a villain, like, what drives us, what kind of, like, almost like what makes these shows work. Like, I felt like it wasn't, like, directly spilling it all out. It was, like, celebrating the show and making us think about why we enjoy those particular types of shows, or maybe why we once enjoyed those types of shows. Like, I feel like it was getting on that sort of level.
Yeah, because, I mean, like, for instance, the whole motivation of the Prime Minister to be like, I need 100% support from everyone, and doing just, like, a Metal Gear Rising Senator Armstrong kind of thing. Where it's like, what's up, I'm a politician, but I'm actually using power armor, and I'm gonna wreck your shit. But for it to actually be like, oh, I was just kidding, pretending to be a villain, I actually needed everyone's support so I could stop the aliens, is just such a wild, like, immediate, super escalation of everything that had just happened at that point, to the point where it's like, yeah, this is really dumb, but I like it. And it does kind of make you sit back and think, I mean, like, okay, that's a kind of poor motivation, but then, you have that in comparison to, like, thinking about King Torture or From Beyond and such, and it's these kind of ideas that these larger villains all have these very different, varying motivations for what makes them, for how they got to be at that spot that they are in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was something that I definitely saw. And like I said, I don't hate the show. And I think that it did use satire very well, even in the later episodes that I wasn't as much on board with. For me, it was just like a twofold thing. One, it was just the complete and utter tone shift that on episode 7 onwards, where it was like, we're going to do something that's more revisionist, and then episode 7 onward, it's just parody. Not in like a biting or sarcastic tone, but it's still parody of what came before. And it just jumps so quickly and, like, without notice, and then it never comes back to that type of revisionist that it was doing.
So essentially you wanted Flamenco, but just the entire series is just him, like, fighting against very basic injustices, like, littering and just delinquency.
Like, initially, when I'm 6 episodes into a show, I'm like, okay, that's what this show is about. And so I was like, no, okay, this is... And I really liked that idea, and I wanted that to continue. And that would have been, like, a great, like, 1 core kind of show. And I realized it was supposed to be 2 core, which is why I was always wondering, like, okay, well, where are they going to go from here? So, and then, like, episode 7 onwards, I'm like, okay, this is where they're going to go from here. But it's that, the tonal shift, mixed with the fact that, honestly, after, like, not only seeing Power Rangers as a kid, but, like, watching Kamen Rider and watching some of these other ones that this is based off of, a lot of the bombastic and crazy shit that they do doesn't strike me as parody as much as you would think it does. Because that's just shit that they did in those shows. Like, the senator suddenly being an evil alien, that's a thing that would have occurred in those shows. In his like whole thing being like, no, but like plot twist, I'm actually a good guy. That would have happened in those shows. To me, it was less like, oh, it's like a clever twist on it, or some type of subversion, and it's more of just playing it straight exactly as I've seen in other shows. And so, like, even though it was supposed to come across as like, that's ridiculous, like, yeah, these shows weren't they ridiculous? To me, I was just like, yeah, that's literally everything I've seen in all these other shows.
I mean, I guess that's fair, and I suppose that in one way you could kind of view it like that. But I mean, in the year of our Lord 2012, when there was, that's not exactly the height of entertainment that's coming out of Japan at the time.
Yeah.
As opposed to like when we got Power Rangers and things of that nature over here, and that was kind of the
back in the
frame of reference
80s, 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I know that Kamen Rider and such are still getting new series and seasons out every now and then.
Yeah, they get a new movie like every 2-3 years or something like that. It's
yeah, so
crazy.
I understand that it's still very much like a cultural touchstone in a lot of senses over there, but also I kind of feel like, that would have been a point in time where, in terms of entertainment, we don't really have much of a frame of reference for that. Or, people that might watch it at that point might be like, oh yeah, like, I haven't seen anything like a Kamen Rider or Super Sentai adjacent in like a decade or so.
I don't know if that's true though, because like when I visited my step family this past winter, we just watched Power Rangers straight, like several seasons of it, because it was like new versions of Power Rangers, because that's what their son is into. That's the thing that he's been watching. And they've been like, if you go back and look at some of the seasons, I think they have like 20 different series of Power Rangers. Not just like seasons, but like different series, and they've just kept doing them. And like and they even had a recent celebration in which they brought back all of the characters from the past 20 years, and had them all together in this like huge, massive in space giant battle. It's like,
good God,
yeah. And so like that crazy shit happens, and those shows have just kept coming out. Like even if it's not necessarily our target market, there's still plenty of that happening for those that are interested in them, even in America.
I mean, I'm not going to disagree with anything you said, but
plus, this is an
really
anime that initially was made for the Japanese market, so like culturally, that's what they would have come to expect.
Maybe I don't want to make that assumption, but
that's fair. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm looking at it kind of as a frame of reference. If you look at just like mainstream anime, like if you look especially at 2012, 2013, when people are still saying moe is garbage for like, that's like 50% of the internet at that point. So congrats on that. I don't know. I feel like this is definitely a branch out, and I don't want to say it's like everyone's first exposure to it, because there was definitely, when I was reading a lot of the discussion from 6 years ago recently, it looked like a lot of people were referencing like Kamen Rider, but a lot of those people weren't even making those references until post episode 7, which I thought was also interesting. The fact that no one was bringing up references to those shows until after everyone had started disliking it.
Well,
so, I don't know. Like
the reason is that
like
Kamen Rider has a lot more to do with episode 7 onwards than what it has to do with 1 through 6. Like I said, 1 through 6, it's such a different thing compared to 7 onwards. 7 onwards is just straight going directly to the throat of Super Sentai films and TV shows. 1 through 6 is just like the general idea of a hero in a costume, which I thought was really cool and kind of relevant too.
I haven't seen Kamen Rider or any of that. I haven't even heard of people mentioning Power Rangers in years, at least for me. I mean, I'm sure people watch it, but I don't know anything about any of it, honestly. Except I've watched a little bit of it as a kid, and I thought it was cool. And now I've watched this show, and I thought it was cool. I don't know. Like, I guess, I don't know. I don't I get what you're saying, but I don't really understand your point of reference at all.
Right.
So
Because, it's just, we've come from two different perspectives there. And that's totally fair. And once again, I want to reiterate, I didn't hate this show at all. Like, I was a little miffed whenever we had that sudden tone change, but then I kept watching it and I was like, no, I'm still enjoying this, and the jokes are really funny. Like, it's just, it felt like such a big thing to me that they had what was basically two separate shows within the same show. And I was like, that's weird.
I don't know. I still feel like that the show was interwoven together, like with this overall theme of just what are heroes. Like, I feel like the whole show was trying to not answer that question, but discuss the question of
just to bring it up and leave the question.
What makes a hero? What makes a villain? What makes those motivations? What can those motivations be? How does someone become a villain? Like, who is a villain? Like, and sometimes the villain is ourselves, like that's what the last couple episodes would seem to be like.
Was it though? Because like, good gosh, that went bonkers.
But
I was getting some Dark Knight like feeling vibe.
Well,
from that
it was pretty obvious. I haven't seen the Dark Knight, and it was obvious. Like,
yeah, it was just like, oh, this is our Joker Batman moment. Got it.
Yeah, but yeah.
I feel like we talk a lot about episode 7 as this kind of pivotal moment, and I mean, like, yeah, obviously, like, we did get some weird shit, because I mean, like, it went from stop, you bunch of middle schoolers, to holy shit, did that gorilla with a guillotine in its gut just throw 5 headless SWAT members out a building? And I mean, yes, that is what happened, but at the same time, that is like the most gratuitous amount of violence we get in the entire show.
It's not even the violence for me, though.
I understand that, and I get that.
Yeah.
But like the point of the matter is that, like, our major characters, Goro, everyone in the Flamenco gang, like, does not fundamentally change after that. Like, they still are the same people, and they still have a lot of these underlying motivations, and that doesn't make Masayoshi instantly like competent anymore, because he's still very much just a fashion model who decided to take up vigilante justice for himself and happens to have some weird stationary stuff.
He's a big, beautiful dumbass. He's a good boy.
Yeah, and that doesn't change, and that is something that is consistent throughout the show itself.
I feel like the characters are very consistent.
Yeah, that's the thing. So, like, I understand where you're coming from here, but I feel as though, like, it still very much retains its core throughout the show, even though a lot of the major, like,
plot elements change.
Even though kind of like the style and substance of what is discussed and what some of the set pieces are definitely does change, but that doesn't it doesn't really distance us from what the show is trying to approach and discuss. I realize that switching from, again, like, hey, you were inspired by these old shows and justice and things of that nature, and you're going to do what you can in a normal world to invoke justice. I get that going from that to, like, actual villains from these kinds of shows is a big shift in that sense. But we are still very much addressing these ideas of, okay, well, I'm going to do what I can with what I have in this circumstance to enact justice, to be just, to work with what I feel is right here. And I feel as though in that particular sense, yeah, it changes a lot. It kind of does a lot of different things where we think about how we frame these ideas. But I still feel like ultimately, even though we have that weird kind of abrupt shift there, the show still stays on its original trajectory. That's my take on it.
Yeah, it's just, for me personally, it was like, I don't know, to me it just seemed like it was dropping the ball a little bit and going a little too into just reproducing what other shows have done after that point. And and they even bring it up as a joke on a couple of occasions where it's like, wait, you're telling me that there's a whole, like, Flamingers? When did this happen? And he's like, don't worry about it. And it's like, and it's supposed to be a joke of like, yeah, but it's never explained. It's just all these random shit happens sometimes in these superhero shits. And I'm like, yeah, but you're also still doing that. You have no explanation for why this is suddenly a thing now. You're pointing it out, but you're still doing it. And that's those were the parts that bothered me 7 onwards.
I mean, I want to agree, but I also like I just don't feel like that was that important for what it was trying to do, honestly. Like, I don't know. It doesn't matter that much to me, I guess.
For me, it was the sheer magnitude of moments that I felt that it did that, where it's just like, I realize that you're doing this as a joke, but you're honestly not, like, actually nailing it like I would want you to. And that just comes down to a personal preference. I think, because like I just, I didn't enjoy the show as much as other people, but that's fine. I still think it's a good show, and I still think it does a lot of really great stuff. And I do think that a lot of the dialogue that it brings up about superhero shows and just general ideas of like what is a hero and what is a villain are very good. Plus the way that the characters change over the course of the series I thought was very good, even if the last 4 episodes it was a little forced. But before that, just all of the characterization with like Mari and the MMM girls, and like the way that their dynamics change, the way that we learn more about Goto and his tragic past, and also just Masayoshi like does a great job of like growing up, even if he's still a dumbass. He's a good boy, and it's just his way of expressing himself, and he just changes to match that hero type that he needs to be. There's a lot of good things about this show. I just, personally was a little miffed about a few things, so I can't rate it as highly as I would want to.
Sure, and that's fair. And I mean, like, we all go with like different expectations for these things,
yeah.
So like,
yeah.
I don't know. Like, I guess I kind of don't know specifically where I would go from here in talking about the show.
I mean, I've said everything that I wanted to say.
Like, because I think it is a lot of fun in that particular sense, but
it is a lot of fun.
I don't think I would say that it has a lot of like as much substance necessarily. Aside from what we've talked about, like I think it does a lot for us to kind of discuss and think about like how do we approach heroism and villainy and all that kind of stuff, and how we approach justice, etc. Yeah,
I don't know. I almost feel like I could like this is the second time I've watched this show, and both times I've watched this show, I'm like, man, like I would really want to like write a good piece about this show both times. And honestly, like it's just there's a lot you could say, I think, about the show and what it tries to do, but honestly, like it's not exactly the whole thing that makes it good. It's like I don't know, like there's like I feel like this show's almost better if you just try to discuss like different
individual moments.
Well, it's like I feel like I could write a piece about each arc, but not the whole show. Like, it's some kind of one of those things. Like, because it almost feels like, and this is kind of, I guess, my only like real complaint about the show is that it kind of does feel like, it feels like it has like it's going for one thing, but it feels a little disjointed, just a little bit.
Because it has very distinct segments in which it's like, okay, now we're doing
like you could say this arc, this arc, okay, now this arc, this arc.
Yeah.
There's very good cutoff points, but I think that doesn't devalue any of what the show's about. And I just think that like if you were going to write about the show, you'd almost have to write about each segment because there's so much to unpack. I feel like.
Yeah, right. Because because I feel like a lot of the thematic elements that are discussed in like the King Torture arc are not quite as relevant to the whole last like 3 or 4 episodes arc that are a lot more introspective, because they're, while it's the same show and the same characters, they're discussing a lot of fundamentally different like big brain ideas. And
right, it's very much one of those shows
it's difficult
where
to like kind of link them together in a way that is going to be effective. Because I mean, like, we could talk about larger overlying themes that go through each particular arc, but there's a lot that
I mean, there's a lot to unpack. Like,
and it's also may feel a bit cheated to what those individual arcs were trying to say, if you're trying to go for like big meta picture, whenever those individual arcs had actually different things to say.
Right. Like, I feel like if you tried to sum up the show together, it would be like, oh, like you would basically would just say what we just said. It would like talking about like what is a hero, what is a villain, and what makes those up. What is justice?
Right.
You know, like I feel like you kind of over summarize it. Like,
right. It cheapens the what was cool about the show, which was the individual arcs kind of thing.
Yeah, like it's a good base summary, but like it's so much more than that.
Right. Yeah.
Like each arc, I like, and this is maybe where it helped me. I managed to like compartmentalize each arc almost as like its own thing. Like I still viewed the show as a whole, but it's like I once I realized that the arc shifted, like I was like, okay, there's a different set of things I should be looking for now, and they're going to talk about this different aspect, but while integrating it with this overall theme.
Clean slate.
Yeah, so. I don't know. I feel like that's like a really interesting way to do a show. I don't know. I just found it really fascinating. Also, I think it's important to note that the director and scriptwriter of the show, the scriptwriter was this is a Manglobe show, which Rip Manglobe.
Oh yeah, they are gone, aren't they?
Yeah, they are gone.
Sometimes.
Yeah, they went bankrupt a couple years ago.
Oh.
Yeah, so that was one of their main writers for all the shows, for all the Manglobe shows. Like, they were on the show. And then the other one, the director of the show, he was actually the director of Durarara and Bakano, actually. And he also helped write parts of the show. So.
Damn, that's some credit towards this.
Yeah. So I don't really know how much, like, I mean, obviously, as we talked a little bit about in the beginning, the budget's just a little bit less than I'd like it to be, but I mean, I don't know about the budget, but the animation quality at least. I don't know. I felt like that's a fun fact to kind of spew about the show.
Yeah, I think that's cool to look into. The people behind the show.
Yeah. Because, I mean...
The heroes that made the heroes.
The heroes. Oh, don't go super meta. Like, I mean...
Don't go super meta on the show that goes super meta.
Well, I mean, they did have that one episode where apparently Samurai Flamenco is a piece of entertainment for others to enjoy in another universe.
Yeah, it was being very fourth wall there.
Fascinating to me.
What is it?
Like,
it was being very fourth wall there.
I love that dumb idea that somewhere in some alternate universe, like, Beetleborgs actually existed, and their feats were brought to Kids WB at some point.
That's funny.
Fuck, I'm trying to remember, because there's been a few movies I've seen that have been like that, but I can't remember their names right now. No, it's a fun show.
Yeah, I mean, I really like it. I really like all the characters. I really like Masayoshi's development. I think that's like, and that's, I guess that's what I was coming back to my earlier point about the arcs being kind of individualized. Like, if you look at his character in each of the arcs, it's like, I almost feel like after each arc ended, we almost needed like a time passed marker, because I don't know, it just seemed like he had changed at least a little bit, and I guess they did that a little bit at the beginning of each arc, where they're like, I've been doing this, that, and the other, but...
Right, yeah.
I don't know, I felt like that as the arcs developed, he got some, like, really, really good development.
Oh, for sure.
Like, which arc was that? It was the it was not the last arc. I want to say it was like the Prime Minister arc where everyone thought he was the bad guy. Like because the whole world was out to get him because the Prime Minister was.
Yeah, that was the Prime Minister arc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, that's that one. And I don't know, like what happens when your hero is disliked by everyone. I don't know. Like he kind of went through like this.
Then they're Batman.
Really. He went like I don't know. It's just. Well, I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to say. It's just. I don't know. I like the kind of like somber mood undertone that like arc had.
Mm-hmm.
I did too. I thought it was, even though it was dramatically different from like some of the other stuff, the way they transitioned into that one was good. And so like when it starts getting into the real nitty gritty of like trying to survive on the lam, I thought that was pretty well done.
Yeah, it's like you just saw him like in the Flamengers arc. He totally like rocked the world and like with this team of people, and then now he's like having to like scrounge up food out of dumpsters and stuff, and which he won't even do because he's like so morally good. He's like can't steal bread even though starving, which is pure. I think that's great. Yeah,
he ended up not stealing the bread in the bakery, right?
Yeah, he never did that.
That's what I thought.
That was a pretty big moment. Yeah, I like the things like that. It just shows that man, like like his character is just so good. Like it's so good and so pure.
He is a very good hero boy.
Yeah, and it's obvious that he obviously has the best of intentions.
Yeah,
Which
is how they get the resistance together in the first place, is because they're like, there's no way that he did it. I'm sorry. He's not evil. Like all of his friends. This boy? Yeah. It's like the two things they said is he's too good and he's too dumb. And I'm like, yep, that's our good boy.
Yeah, that was what Goro said.
Multiple times they're like, I knew you wouldn't do it. Oh yeah? Because you're way too fucking stupid to be a villain. It was very good.
Yeah. Well, if you also think about it, like he has got the personality of a hero, which is something that the King Torture arc is all about. Like,
right? Yeah.
Especially if you compare him to
Mari,
especially.
Yeah, I liked that they addressed that too, and they didn't just brush it under the rug that she's gonna have some PTSD from that. And I liked that she was eventually able to like heal over that and like figure out truly why her selfish reasons for being a hero were not the just ones.
Yeah. And honestly, as hard as that scene was to watch in the King Torture arc, I thought that was a pretty good scene. Like especially with Mari and King Torture and Moe in the corner, like when they talk about like the qualities of being a hero.
Well, honestly, and it's
I thought it was really good.
It's kind of awkward to say, but I felt like, especially for a torture scene, that was way more tastefully done than most other anime I've seen that have done a torture scene. It was like, because like he even stops torturing Moe whenever she's like, no, I would die for this girl, and he's like, I'm so sorry that I had to hurt you, and then like lets her go, like instead of just like making an example out of her or something, or even after that being like, haha, you see, Mari, you fucked up, and then he like begins to torture her like really really bad.
Yeah,
well
like,
that's the thing, because
I was just gonna say, like, it seemed like that scene was gonna go in such a bad direction, like,
right.
I mean, especially if you have a frame of reference, like, with other torture scenes in anime, where you're like,
we've
oh,
seen
God,
too many anime
this
where
is gonna be
just
bad. Like,
yeah,
like even when I watched it the second time, I was like, oh my God, is this scene not? How does this play out? I don't even remember this. and then I started watching it, and I was like, oh no, okay, this is pretty good actually.
Yeah, because it's so fascinating, because like it is very much the scene where we have torture very much showing how much of a little like sentai nerd he was as a kid.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those qualities have carried over strongly into him, because, you know, he's very much like, I mean, yeah, I'm a villain. I am doing this because I love evil, but I also know a good, pure, gentle soul when I see one.
Right. He's very
it.
lawful evil compared to like a neutral or chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fascinating. He's such a... I'm gonna be real, man. That was still kind of the peak of the show for me. I thought that was the coolest part of the show itself.
I mean, it's a pretty good arc. Like,
yeah,
it is. It's so solid in terms of like actual character development, and the way that is very much like moving the goalpost and shifting the way that they are actually looking to view their problems and solutions, and to actually kind of like really hit home, like, why do we do the things that we do, and how can we take such vastly different messages and ideas from the same text that we all love.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so good.
Well, not only that, you have Masayoshi and Mari's like heroism, vigilante justice being like compared pretty heavily in that arc. I mean, a little bit beforehand, but very heavily in that arc. And that, I think that scene just really drove the points home that it needed to in a very tasteful manner. So
it did. Mm-hmm.
It's such a good scene. Like, I know that's really weird to say. Like, I love the torture scene, but like,
but it was important. And
it was
the way that it was actually
good.
handled was important.
Yeah. Like, and the fact that and it's the whole thing with Moe, and like how he's like, and he basically just, because let's be honest, like, Mari, a little bit selfish, a little bit personally driven,
a little bit more than a little bit selfish. Yeah.
I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt.
She just likes kicking dongs.
But yeah, when King Torture looked at her and said, like, basically just said, that's how a true hero is supposed to act, and you're not doing that.
It's like, oof.
And that was like, and I mean, that obviously broke her. Like, we saw the aftermath. So,
yeah.
But I mean, that was an important moment, because she was being pretty selfish. So
I will say I was a little sad that MMM got swept to the side multiple times to focus down on our main characters, and it's understandable why. I was a little sad because I liked them, and I liked seeing them have more interaction.
Yeah, I definitely like their characters, all of them. They're good.
Yeah.
I would watch a 22 episode series about them, but that's irrelevant. Did you just say?
Huh?
Oh, I was just gonna ask, what did you say? Did you say that I know you would? Is that what you said?
Oh, I said I would too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This isn't me being the little shit.
Putting Matt on blast.
I thought that's what was happening, and I was like, did I just miss it?
Can we very, very briefly talk about the last arc and why we delved into I don't understand what love is. Can you teach me subplot?
Yeah.
Or do we want to talk about this? Can we just say it was bad and then just go?
Yeah, I mean, the most that I can say is that I understand I understand what it was trying to do, but I just don't think it handled it well. And I thought that it was interesting that it wanted to try, because that was definitely more of, rather than Super Sentai, that was definitely more of a combat of like more Western tropes with superheroes. But I just don't think it did it well in like talking and discussing that idea. And it just turned out
I felt like it needed
awkward.
Another episode or two.
Yeah, boy, howdy, yeah.
It seems very tacked on.
I feel like I knew what it was trying to get at, and like, don't get me wrong, like, I still enjoyed like parts of it as part of the whole. Like, it kind of like tied up the loose ends, I guess, especially with Goto's girlfriend. Which, by the way, who saw that coming?
I didn't see that at all. That was dark.
You know, someone on the Reddit thread when this first aired predicted that on episode 2. That, and literally in passing, he's like, yeah, that might be something that happens. And then, like, he came back when the arc started. And
I fucking knew it.
And he's like, oh my god, guys, I didn't think I was going to be right. I was just kidding. A lot of people thought his girlfriend was going to be some kind of villain. Like that's what a lot of people thought. That was
I was wondering about that while I was watching it.
Yeah, because I mean, it was definitely weird that we had such a integral central character that never got any screen time literally ever.
Right, and I also thought it was funny that, like, yeah, and especially in a show like this where, like, every other arc we find out a good guy's a bad guy. Or like
Mr. Justice's heel turn.
Or like some random twist or turn like that. I'm like, sky's the fucking limit, man. She could be the one mastermind behind it all. Who knows?
Yeah, like M. Night Shyamalan has nothing on this.
Yeah.
there were a lot of M. Night Shyamalan esque moments. Like the Prime Minister being good and then suddenly being bad. And then suddenly he was
being good again.
Being good.
And suddenly he was like middle ground.
And because like that, the end of that arc too, right? With the transition between Flamengers and like, not Flamengers, the Prime Minister and arc and the alien and Flamenco, in space. It's just like right at that transition when you kill the Prime Minister or defeat the Prime Minister, I guess would be more appropriate. Mm-hmm. And he's like, no, I was just trying to stop you. And then Mr. Justice comes in and, like, and then he just, realized that he's the real bad guy. And it's like, that's not Mr. Justice. Like, sometimes the plot twists are just, we're like, someone was galaxy braining this for a while.
Honestly, Masayoshi and the others really could have seen this coming if they had just sat down with all these people next to a riverbank.
Yeah,
people are more truthful.
People are more honest on a riverbank. Sit down.
Sit down.
Sit down.
You sack of shit.
Oh, like was that not the you got to admit
who knew that that's basically like a circle of truth right there is just like right by a riverbank. This is when we can be honest.
Who knew that the aliens preferred English?
Yeah. Well, I guess he was pretending to be like an American superhero for a while.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess
Justice Beam.
That's fair.
Justice tackle, tackle.
Like just the absurdity of all of that.
Yeah.
Also, who thought they were going to go to space? No one thought that was going to happen.
I kind of thought they were going to go to space.
Well, you're a poop.
I was like 80% sure after like the Flamengers thing. I was like, with almost certainty they are going to go into space.
Because we have to do Flamengers Age of Ultron and then
Flamengers
Civil War.
Yeah, and Flamengers Endgame. But it more so than that, it was just like I'm pretty sure most things that they've parodied at some point in time they went to space. that's just how that works.
Yeah.
Power Rangers, they go to space.
Yeah. Like I didn't expect it, but it didn't surprise me.
I mean, at that point, it's one of those things that you kind of just get hit with all of the plot twists at that point, and you're like, what's next? Space? And next thing, a UFO falls out of the sky, and I'm like, I should have fucking known.
You just turn into John Mulaney, and you're just like, well, this might as well happen.
Pretty much. And it's funny, because they even, talk about that. They were like, now we're going to space? What the heck?
Oh, yeah, and I also like whenever he comes back from space and he's talking to Goto, and he's like, I fought a dude in space, and he's like, stop bullshitting me.
I went all the way up there.
He's like, no, but no. Really, I did. And he's like, no, you didn't, you fucking liar. And there's just the giant imprint of him on the moon where he got slammed into it.
Yeah, that was Alien Flamenco for you.
Yep.
I don't know. I just like the show, overall. It was just really fun. And
it's a fun show.
I felt like it made a lot of, interesting thought. I want to say thought juice, but that's not the word I'm looking for.
Some brain smoothie?
It got
some thinking yum.
Sure. It got you thinking. That's what I'm trying to say. It generated some interesting thoughts about those concepts.
juice.
I'm gonna use that.
There's a word for that, but I can't think of it right now.
I'm absolutely gonna use that.
What do you mean there's a word for that?
Well, it's better than brain yum-yums.
Do you mean it gets your juices going? Gets your juices flowing?
I think that's what I was thinking about. But
you're
that's
like combining
not
two different
thinking.
things.
I think that's what happened.
That was a killer metaphor.
This portmanteau is brought to you by Galaxy Brain Thought Juices.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, I think that's a good place to end it.
Yeah, I mean, watch the show.
I think we need to stop.
I'm gonna plug this show some more. So.
Wait, we're plugging the show? We haven't been talking about it for the last hour?
I wanted to plug it myself.
Okay.
Hey guys, I know you just got to the end of this podcast, and I just wanted to say a little promotion here, sponsored by Samurai Flamenco.
I turn my chair around.
Also by Mineral Miracle Muse's new single.
Yeah.
What is it?
I don't know the name.
Jewel Stomp?
I wanna fuck the policeman and Jewel stomp his pee-pee.
Oh my god. So, yeah, that was a thing that happened.
Yeah. Apparently she's got a fetish. And all the while I was thinking, I don't know why she's going after Goto when she has Moe and she's actively in love with her. I'm like, just get Moe to dress up like a policeman. That's the best of both worlds.
I don't know. But I can't believe she wrote 70-some songs about policemen.
Yeah. It was funny, too, because, like, some of them start off by saying, like, fucking pigs, and then she's like, I'm gonna fuck the pigs. And you're like, oh, okay, whoa, wait a minute.
Like, yeah, some of those songs were like, oh, we can't use that one.
It's like, is this happening right now? What's going on with our
By the way, that was still when the show was, like, grounded. So, I mean, that was happening for a while, so...
Alright, but anyways, it's a good show. People should watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first opening's good. Better than the second one.
They're both pretty good, though. I was digging both.
Okay, like, here's the thing, man. Like, they're both rad. And, I mean, I don't know how the fuck they got Flo to do the second OP for that show. Like, it shouldn't have happened that way. Like, I guess they must have just, like, had nothing to do. But...
this might as well happen.
It's like, I mean, we haven't done a Shippuden OP for a couple seasons, so I guess we'll do this. Why not?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I like them both. I just like the first one. Just me.
Yeah.
I also like the first ending, but that's obvious.
So any last
thoughts?
I'm
done now.
Anything else? No? Okay.
No. Done.
Just watch
do
the show, I guess.
Yeah.
Because you can get a much better sense of the general sense of weirdness that goes on with this thing by just experiencing it rather than hearing our almost like... I don't even know how I would describe this because, wow, we were all over the place.
Rambling.
Because there's so many places to go.
Yeah.
We went on an adventure.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the show. And part of our podcast. So.
Yeah, I guess we'll see everybody next time then. Enjoy Samurai Flamenco. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. As always, you can find all our podcasts, articles, videos, etc. at thebacklogers.com. Our intro and outro song is The Bear by Shell in the Pit, who you can find on Spotify and Bandcamp. And we'd love to hear from y'all in the comments on our site, on the podcast platform of your choice, or just by screaming into the sky. We got some new hero gadgets for super hearing, so I'm sure we'll hear you. And as always, we're on Twitter at _backloggers, so stop in for a bit.